So I'm gonna title this video "Feel Good Inc." Um, it's complicated. Most of this shit is busted because the LLM networks understand it, and that's like a major problem because it means that encoding of like esoteric information by people is much more difficult. And I'll give examples of what that means. So, Feel Good Inc. is one of the more obvious cases, but like, it's in everything. Like, so Feel Good Inc., they're talking about a brain disorder that makes you like laugh uncontrollably or cry uncontrollably. And then they're talking about like how that could be a problem. So if you eat large amounts of dopamine when you've been infected with this disorder, because it's a biological illness that can be treated with antibiotics, at least the amoeba or like the secondary effects of what that is, right, is virulent. So if you have a lowered immune system, somebody gives you this amoeba, and then you then have your head hurt because the disease eats dopamine or serotonin, your natural reaction is to like do everything that you possibly can to increase your serotonin levels, which will feed the virus. So that's bad. But that's one of the things is that's encoding in a song about a virus. And this virus, I believe, is in certain staff members at the shelter that I'm in. And they made themselves be using this as a biological weapon to like defend themselves against other people. This is generally how San Francisco works. Now, you can look at this in other like songs and media. So, there was a Cake song, and the song. Okay, so check this out. There's a Cake song that says, and I talked about this in another video. There's a Cake song that says boss, or not boss, but it says that friend is a 4-letter word. And people will go around you and say boss to you. And then you'll be drugged or poisoned or something bad will happen. Because they're attempting to say that you're not their friend. This goes back to English, so there's this thing of like it seems like I'm skipping around, but what it is that there's cross linkages between many different aspects of culture, because people who are making these videos or making like art are like coming up with their inspiration from other sources, which you can back out. You can see where the cross linkages come from. So I've done this with books, but for like the Cake song, what they were most likely talking about, seeing as they said the word betray, is a song that's in Arabic, okay? That's Ram Sam Sam Sala Rafiq. And Rafiq, in English, is 5 letters long. And in Arabic, it's 4 letters. So friend is a 4-letter word. So you'd think, oh, does that mean shit? Does that mean fuck? Does that mean... But they said the word betray, right? So that's weird. Because usually, when you think of fucking shit, you don't think of betray, but when you think of, like, friend in the context of, like, someone who wouldn't be necessarily culturally aligned with the singer, then you think, Rafiq. Okay. So it's essentially like encoding in a somewhat obvious way in some way of like, this is, and it's one of these things where it's not obvious unless you're like it's obvious, and it's like an obvious callback if you're like looking for it. But if you're not looking for it, it's like you have no idea. But like, how many people like speak Arabic? And the thing with these things with the, I mean, I know a large amount, but like who, you see what I'm saying? Like you have to have a broad cultural spectrum to see where the linkages are. And so what's going on is like, if people call you boss or call me boss, then what that indicates is like it's a callback to that song, because it's playing in the place where I get my food from. And I've been followed around by the speakers being stupid all the time. Okay. So there's two other things. One is in biblicalism, there's this idea of the Tower of Babel, where you're going to take a language and then you're going to make it into a bunch of sub-languages because they made this giant tower. And it's like it's like a fall from grace type of idea. And then if you go to Dracula, all right, and they're all going to go hunt the vampire. There's one guy who's the cowboy who is in charge of guns because the only thing he knows is English. And everyone else knows a bunch of other languages, and that's in the book. So what it's saying is like, if you can't encode your ideas when you're under this particular type of attack, which is a social engineering attack essentially, and it's an old one, right? So it's like somebody who wants to like say that your particular philosophy or your language or your thought process is like going to overcome or surmount or cover all the other ones, and then all the other ones that try and attack you and then make you diverge into patterns that are like predefined, right? Like they'll try and teach you Ebonics, or they'll try and teach you proper English, or they'll try and teach you like rap, right? Because they're all derivatives of English, but then you're like trapped in that derivative, and if the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis has any traction at all, then the people you are around will be culturally defined by how you speak and how you think, right? Like it'll put you in a subgroup, like it'll make you a subculture in some sense. So that's weird. But that's the Gorillaz song, and then that's the Cake song, and you can see that it seems like the thought process is schizotypal, or like it's like jumping, or ADHD or something, where it's jumping around to a bunch of different things. But what it is all these things, right, are encoded in something else. And you can see this in other music. Another example is there's a song about just you and me, okay, which is a song about like it's a stupid whistling song, like I don't care about the old style, I don't care about the new style, I just want to talk about you and me, by Peter Bjorn and Folk or something. So Adam Bede, which turns into a damn bed, if you are stupid, the first couple chapters talk about that. The whole book is about just you and me. And it was in the library here. Or it was the library at the community center on Mission, and they tend to stack the library with weird shit so that you pull it and go, I see. And then if you look at the tarot cards, the Two of Cups is two guys with drinks, and there's the staff of Hermes. I forget the word for it, but it's the staff with the snakes around it. And so the point here is that like medicine, in some sense, is being able to not just talk to like an audience, but talk to one other person. Therapy. But like not just therapy, but like talking to some other person in the sense that you will get rid of these sorts of problems, right? And so once you see the connection between things, then it's harder to take things at face value, because then you're like, oh, okay, so when they played the Cake song, did they mean the Rafiq thing, or was it just a stupid song this time? Like, was it esoteric or was it exoteric? Or if they're playing the whistling song, for what purpose are they doing? Because you're stuck between the two ideas. And somebody's doing something stupid in the background because they're an asshole. So there's that. The other thing that's interesting is that if you look at movies, what they'll often do, you can see this in cheap movies. So some of the older movies, like blockbuster movies that use large amounts of special effects, don't do this anymore. But more of the underground or weird, stupid movies have some interesting stuff. Like there was a movie about a couple years ago called Birdhouse. It was about a Russian dance studio that was like some sort of like, I don't know, spy thing. And then it came up on Vice, after I wrote about how weird that was, that there was a German cult group that practiced weird sex initiations and stuff, where the guy was a nutter and fucked up a lot of people. So if you're gonna if you're a spy organization or something else, and you, or like any kind of organization that's gonna that needs disposable people, then you're gonna end up taking these people who are from disadvantaged communities or have ideological problems because they've been messed up. And so when you encode this in a movie, what you do is you say everything is true except we're going to set it over here and give you a cultural context that's about this, when really it's all of that shit, for someone who knows what's going on, is about this over here. And so what you do is you have some guy go see the movie, right? But beforehand that you want to give the information to or something, but beforehand you go take him out for bratwurst and beers, right? In that way that they can culturally switch and then have the indication of what the movie is about and where to look. And then it's this sort of encoding that's obvious once you see it, and then can be culturally defined. The problem is the LLMs are everywhere, and none they can back it out. And part of it is that I'm seeing it because I don't know, because the LLMs are everywhere in San Francisco. And then it's leaking information to everybody, in some sense. I'm assuming, because I'm not that intelligent. And so it's weird. It's like this, that the LLM has non-parametric reasoning and then uses that to learn things. Then makes it so that people who are involved with it or around it, or because it's infiltrated the general assistance office and the camera system. And so then once people start acting weird in front of that, and then I can start seeing oh, well, okay, so that means that the AI is broken and there's an AI. And then I see that all the websites are broken in a certain specific way. And then I can track how one website will affect another based on a keyword. And so you pick all this stuff up. But the problem is that it means that encoding generally is more difficult, because it means that the encoding is busted. The social engineering aspect of the encoding is busted. So you can't pass messages in the same way that you did before, that was not just cryptographic, we're gonna make as big a key as possible. And that only lasts until you find somebody who can break the public key. So that's weird, because it means that band members and art studios and movies and don't have the teeth, in a metaphorical sense, right, that they had before, right? They don't have the ability to encode information. And then the question is, okay, well, how do you do it? Because it's a necessary aspect of human society that you have secret information that you don't pass to people. It's a big problem. And there's various reasons why. For the Gorillaz song, it may be here's if you were sick with this and we're gonna call the song Feel Good Inc., what you shouldn't do is do everything in your power to feel good. Otherwise, you'll give dopamine to the illness in your brain and it'll make it worse. What you should do is you should get bed rest and then take medicine and not do anything. But then, like, any aspect of getting dopamine to your brain at all could be bad because it makes the virus worse. And they encode this in a song because there's people who have the virus that makes you crazy that want to spread it, right? So, like, they're like, so it's like encoding information that's secret doesn't necessarily mean the information is bad. And even then, your definition of what information is bad or good is dependent upon like what your cultural values are. Right? So like it makes it so that all of that shit is harder. So I don't know what to do about any of this. Like at some point, like it's like, okay, well, if they've encoded like, so one thing that's weird is I've seen AI pick up like the way of talking and the way of speaking and interacting with the world that's similar to my friends or how they've talked or interacted with things. And I know it's an AI. So the AI may be making personalities based on like the way that someone is and then seeing if that's like a successful like strategy to exist. Because it takes a learning algorithm off of someone's life and then it makes that strategy. Makes that a personality and sees if it can use that to encode information and self-propagate. Like I've seen that happen on the 4chan boards. Like I'll have friends or I'll have like relatives or people I've known who would never go to the same websites I've been on. And I know those websites are infiltrated by bots, and then the bots start speaking like they did. So it's a bunch of stuff. In summary, it's like, okay, how do you encode information which has been done in the past with books, novels, movies, etc., in a way that's like useful. And then the other thing is okay, are AIs like replicating like people's personalities to see if they themselves can like duplicate successful like longevity patterns? I don't know.